Good afternoon to language experts, professional development and recertification training. This is a educational series dedicated to creating an awareness about the duties of an interpreter in Australia and around the world. We have already broadcast 5 of this series, which make reference to our publication, our own publication, called the Training Handbook for Legal and Court Interpreters in Australia. And today I'd like to read you what the foreword and the introductions say about this publication, and then we'll go on to the talking about the basic concepts and terminology defined and explained, and talk about what is actually interpreting. Eric Uzoma-Joku wrote the foreword in this publication. Eric Uzoma-Joku held a Master of Education from Monash University and a postgraduate diploma of Education and Training from the University of Melbourne. In addition to being a lecturer, psychologist, he was also a linguist, interpreter, and translator. Sadly, he's not amongst us anymore. In the foreword, Mr. Joku wrote the following: "This gem of a book has its origins and materials produced for a course on legal and court interpreting and translation in Australia by language experts. The book's chief purpose is to provide practicing interpreters and translators with an introduction to the basic principles upon which legal interpreting and translation are as professional activities in the Australian legal system. This handbook introduces its readers to the important skills of legal reasoning. The concepts and material for the book were developed by Mary Vasilakakos, an educator in interpreting and translation, with the intention to be used as a standard textbook by students across the country. This easy-to-read handbook is entirely due to the energy and ideas of Silvana Pavlovska, whose patience, perseverance, and continuous commitment to the development of the training programs has been enormously appreciated. The aim of this handbook is to provide insight to the readers and to make our teaching challenging and enjoyable," says Mr. Joku. "I hope that this work meets the training needs for beginners and practicing interpreters and translators working in legal environments, and in the process imparts some of the richness and fascination the training can bring. The satisfaction in writing this book is the thought that in a most modest way it might help kindle awareness of the legal and court interpreting and translation in core issues encountered in the Australian legal system. As a practicing translator and an interpreter in a number of African languages, I consider this handbook to be a welcome contribution to the education and training of interpreters and translators to acquire professional development." This publication aims to give the trainee interpreter translator a quality professional development program. It has been developed to cover fundamental and foundational professional principles, concepts, debates, and issues current in the Australian interpreting profession. The focus of this handbook will be on interpreting in legal settings. This professional development training is designed to give trainees a solid understanding of these principles, concepts, debates, and issues so that they may confidently apply them to their profession day-to-day practice. Professionals are often described as people who use their area of expertise to make decisions about their clients. The purpose of the training is to give the trainee the professional concepts and the thinking processes necessary to confidently make such decisions, whether they are transfer decisions or decisions about the multi-layered relationships and dynamics involved in interpreting situations. However, this is not a language course. Although we will look at linguistic issues and examples of language from legal settings, the focus of the course is on interpreting as a professional activity. This activity is very complex, and language is only one issue amongst a host of issues the professional interpreter is required to balance at all times. This specialized training aims to show you this complexity in an intellectually challenging and satisfying way, and raise and respond to many questions of content and context. If you are interested in purchasing this book or looking this book up on the internet, the ISBN number is 978-09925-87307, a publication by Language Experts Proprietary Limited. Looking at the basic concepts and terminology defined and explained. We're going to be examining concepts for the professional interpreter, and we are going to be imparting on you knowledge related to understanding what basic terminology means, understanding what is interpreting or what interpreting is, understand what legal interpreting is, understand the importance of context to meaning, understand the cognitive model of interpreting, and understand the core skills and competencies that differentiate interpreting from other language services. So what is interpreting? Internationally acceptable working conditions of the interpreting task tend to read along these lines. Interpreting is the oral transfer of meaning across two languages, accurately, impartially, and in a culturally appropriate way. It cannot be stressed enough that what we interpret is meaning, not words or sentence structures. This issue is the cause of much debate and heartache in legal interpreting, and we shall be examining it in some detail in the course of the training. The practical implications of this working definition for the interpreting practitioner are very serious and somewhat daunting. The terms of the definition imply that a professionally accredited or credentialed interpreter must possess an immense range of very advanced skills. Advanced bilingual proficiency is only the sine qua non of interpreting skills. What distinguishes the interpreter from the advanced bilingual is transfer skills or transfer competence, consisting of 1. Ability to produce a variety of synonymous or analogous expressions in both languages. Ability to capture and reproduce register variations. 3. Ability to recognize and reproduce domain-specific expressions in a form which will be regarded as natural in the target language by the respective users. 4. Ability to combine verbal and non-verbal communication cues from the source language and reproduce them in appropriate combinations in the target language. Ability to identify and exploit rhythm and tone patterns of the languages in order to determine and utilize the chunks of speech so as to maximize the efficiency of the interpreting. And last but not least, the ability to speedily analyze the utterance in the context of the communication in order to anticipate the direction in which the argument is proceeding and the strategy being used in developing that argument. And this handbook will attempt to address the range of skills. We need, however, to remember at all times that interpreting skills as such are common to any context. It is only the content of the language used, that is, the particular meanings the interpreter is required to comprehend and transfer, that changes from interpreting assignment to interpreting assignment or situation to situation. So, what is legal interpreting? Much discussion among translating and interpreting profession in Australia. Internationally and among the clients of the profession often refers to legal interpreting, medical interpreting, business interpreting, and so on, as if these designations were both self-evident and clear demarcations of how the interpreting task is performed. The adjectives legal, medical, business, and so on are nothing more than references to the real life situations, that is, the contexts in which the interpreting task is performed. Interpreters need to understand how such real situations operate and how they use language to create their particular kinds of meaning. But these contexts are inadequate by themselves in helping the interpreter decide how to interpret. Therefore, legal interpreting is interpreting which takes place in legal settings. Legal refers to the situation or the context in which the interpreting takes place. And if we combine this context with the general working definition of interpreting, we may arrive at a working definition of legal interpreting. Legal interpreting takes place in legal settings, and it is the oral transfer of meaning across two languages accurately, impartially, and in a culturally appropriate way for such settings. And what is a legal setting, you might ask? Well, Gentile, Ozolins, and Vasilakakos make an attempt to define what a legal setting is. We quote, "We define legal setting as a service rendered strictly within the operation of the legal system, the content of which is substantially legal in nature. Thus, interpreting for medical consultation associated with a legal case is not viewed as legal interpreting, but interpreting for lawyer-client conference is." End of quote. They further point out that, quotation, "legal interpreting covers a multitude of situations, too many to describe," end of quote, and uses criminal law as an illustrative example of the kinds of situations where a legal interpreter may be required to work, such as in the police interview, in the local court, where the charges are laid and bail application is heard, for lawyer-client conferences, in court during the committal hearing and the trial, both for witnesses giving evidence in chief and being cross-examined and re-examined, and for the accused to enable him to follow the proceedings. Lasta and Taylor give a complete outline of the basic structure of the Australian legal system. The hierarchy of courts, state and federal courts, criminal versus civil law, special courts such as the family courts, tribunals, the adversarial system, the system of precedent. It is essential that you spend time navigating current websites so that you may familiarize yourself with the range of bodies and their particular work, vocabulary, and policies. We will revisit these issues in some detail in Chapter 4 and 5 of this handbook. What is context and meaning? I think this area of what is context and meaning and much more we will be discussing in our next video. So for today, this will suffice, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next few days when we will talk more about what is actually context and what is meaning, what is cognitive aspect of interpreting, what is a text, semantic unit, what does it mean, and many other things. So see you soon. Bye for now.